Rick Ankiel and Rick, so far so good this year. A tough outing in Colorado, but looked good the first outing.
Uh, it was okay. I think Colorado, I just left the ball up, and, fortunately that's what happens no matter what park you're in. So, best of luck next time.
The air in Busch Stadium crackled with anticipation. It was May 12, 2000. The St. Louis Cardinals were hosting the New York Mets, and their electrifying rookie pitcher, Rick Ankiel, was on the mound. He was a phenom, a lefty with an arm that fired fastballs like cannonballs. Scouts raved. Fans cheered. Everyone expected brilliance. What happened next, however, was anything but brilliant. It was a hallucination on the mound, a public breakdown that would haunt a young man and become one of baseball's most bewildering mysteries. Rick Ankiel's journey to that fateful night was a masterclass in raw talent and promise. Drafted in the second round of the 1997 MLB draft by the Cardinals, he rocketed through the minor leagues. His fastball consistently registered in the high 90s, sometimes touching 100 miles per hour. Add to that a devastating curveball that many believed was unhittable, and you have the makings of a superstar. He was a left-handed pitcher with power, exactly the kind of weapon every team dreams of. By 2000, Ankiel was no longer a distant hope. He was the present. His debut in Major League Baseball was a resounding success. He won his first MLB game on April 11, 2000, against the Dodgers, striking out 7. He was quickly integrated into the Cardinals' rotation, and his early starts were nothing short of spectacular. Opposing hitters simply couldn't touch his heat. His earned run average was stellar. The Cardinals' faithful embraced him. He was the future, the ace they'd been waiting for. He had the charisma, the swagger, and the talent to match. The buzz around Rick Ankiel was palpable. This was a kid who was going to strike out everyone, a pitcher destined for greatness, for Cy Young Awards, for Hall of Fame enshrinement. He was the golden boy of St. Louis, the antithesis of everything that was about to unfold. The Mets series was just another opportunity for Ankiel to showcase his dominance. He was 3-1 entering the game, with a microscopic earned run average of 1.67. He had already struck out an astounding 40 batters through his first 32 innings pitched. This wasn't just good pitching, this was historically good pitching. He was averaging over 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. The numbers were almost unbelievable. The stage was set. Busch Stadium, a sea of red, buzzing with anticipation for another Ankiel gem. He walked out to the mound, the weight of expectations a familiar companion. The first inning was typical Ankiel. He struck out the first batter he faced, a screaming fastball that painted the outside corner. The roar of the crowd was deafening. This was going to be another dominant performance. Then something shifted. It was subtle at first, almost imperceptible. A flicker of unease, a missed sign. But then it became undeniable. The ball wasn't reaching the plate. The second inning. Rick Ankiel stared at the catcher. He wound up, unleashed his signature fastball. But the ball sailed high and wide, nowhere near the strike zone. The catcher, Mike Matheny, instinctively moved to catch it. It whizzed past him, ricocheting off the backstop. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. That wasn't a mistake, that was a wild pitch. Matheny, a seasoned veteran, trotted out to the mound. He had caught plenty of pitchers, seen their quirks, their moments of struggle. He had a calm word for Ankiel, a reassuring pat on the back. Ankiel nodded, took a deep breath, and stepped back on the rubber. He seemed to regain his composure. But the phantom had returned, cloaked in the guise of errant pitches. The next few pitches were similar. Glorified meatballs floating in the middle of the plate. The Mets hitters, professional athletes who could usually only dream of such gifts, weren't missing them this time. They began to connect, not with towering blasts but with solid base hits. The tension in the stadium thickened. The cheers of the fans turned to anxious murmurs. This wasn't the Ankiel they knew, the Ankiel who commanded the strike zone with authority. This was a stranger on the mound. The Cardinals' bullpen coaches were already starting to stir, their faces etched with concern. Then came the true implosion, a scene that would be replayed in highlights and whispered about for years. Bases loaded. 2 outs. The pressure cooker reached its boiling point. Ankiel stood on the mound, his face a mask of confusion and desperation. He tried to throw a curveball. It was a wild, looping pitch that sailed over the catcher's head. Ball 4. Then another attempt at a fastball. It looked like he was trying to throw a sinker, but it broke wildly, completely missing the strike zone. Ball 4. The Mets had scored. The Cardinals were losing. But the score was secondary. The real drama was unfolding within Rick Ankiel himself. He threw another pitch. It was a slider, or what was supposed to be a slider. It veered sharply, sailing far to the right. Ball 4. The stadium fell silent, a stunned, almost eerie quiet. He had walked in another run. It was a moment of utter bewilderment. The next batter stepped in. Ankiel wound up. He released the ball. It wasn't even close to the strike zone. It was a pathetic looping pitch that seemed to hang in the air. Ball 4. And then one more. Another wild missile that made Mike Matheny look like a bystander. Ball 4. In the span of mere seconds, in the heart of a major league game, Rick Ankiel had unraveled. He had issued 4 consecutive bases on balls, each one wilder than the last. The Mets had scored another run. But the score was irrelevant. The spectacle was of a young man completely losing control of his own body, his own mechanics. It was a public unraveling. His manager, Tony La Russa, a strategic genius and a man known for his steely resolve, had seen enough. He slowly walked out of the dugout, his face grim. He reached the mound and in a gesture that spoke volumes, took the ball from his young star. Ankiel's eyes were blank, his shoulders slumped. He had just experienced the most nightmarish inning of his young life. The aftermath of that inning was as devastating as the inning itself. Rick Ankiel was removed from the game, his face a mixture of embarrassment and disbelief. He had thrown 97 pitches that night, and a staggering 43 of them were 4-ball walks. He recorded just 1 out in the second inning and failed to record a single strikeout. His ERA ballooned. But the statistics paled in comparison to the mental toll. Back in the clubhouse, the air was thick with concern. Teammates tried to offer solace, but words felt inadequate. This wasn't just a bad game, this was a crisis. The media, always hungry for a story, descended. Questions swirled. What happened? Was it nerves? An injury? A mental block? Ankiel himself was baffled. He couldn't explain it. He felt fine physically. His arm didn't hurt. But his body simply wouldn't obey his will. The ball, this object he had commanded with such authority for years, was now a rogue entity. It was as if his brain had forgotten how to send the signal. The diagnosis that emerged was terrifying, a case of yips. The yips are an involuntary and uncontrollable muscle spasm that can affect athletes, particularly pitchers. It can manifest as a loss of fine motor control, making it impossible to execute a precise movement, like throwing a baseball accurately. For a pitcher, it's the ultimate career killer. The Cardinals, despite their initial shock, tried to support Ankiel. They sent him to specialists, hoping for a solution. But the yips are notoriously difficult to overcome. They are often psychological in nature, rooted in anxiety and pressure. And for a young man who had built his identity around his arm, the yips were a cruel irony. He was eventually optioned to the minor leagues, a devastating blow to his confidence and his future with the Cardinals. He tried to pitch again, but the recurring problem plagued him. The fastball, once his superpower, was now a source of immense fear. The curveball, once unhittable, was now a wild, unpredictable weapon. Every pitch was a gamble. The Cardinals organization, after months of trying to salvage his pitching career, made a difficult decision. In 2005, they moved Rick Ankiel to the outfield. It was a drastic measure, a last-ditch effort to keep him in baseball. It meant giving up his dream of being a star pitcher, the role he was born for. The transition was arduous. He had to learn an entirely new position, a new set of skills. He was a powerful hitter, but he lacked the experience and polish of a seasoned outfielder. Yet a glimmer of hope emerged. In the outfield, he didn't have to rely on the precise mechanics of pitching. He could swing the bat with power, and his strong arm, once a source of his demise, could now be a weapon in the field. He made his return to the majors as a position player, a different kind of player but still a major leaguer. It was a testament to his resilience, his refusal to be broken by the ultimate baseball nightmare. He wore the Cardinals' uniform again, not as the ace, but as a utility outfielder. Rick Ankiel's story didn't end on that fateful night in May 2000. It transformed. He found a new path, a testament to the human spirit's capacity for adaptation and perseverance. He played as an outfielder for the Cardinals from 2007 to 2009, then for the Kansas City Royals and the Houston Astros. He even got a chance to pitch in relief appearances, in a desperate and sometimes successful attempt to reclaim a piece of his past. In 2013, he pitched in a few games for the Astros, a surreal moment where he faced hitters again. He even managed to throw a few pitches in the high 90s, a ghost of his former self, a whisper of the phenom he once was. It was a courageous act, a reclamation attempt that, while not returning him to his former glory, showed an incredible level of fortitude. He retired from professional baseball after the 2013 season. His career stats as a pitcher were drastically impacted by that one disastrous inning. He finished with a career pitching record of 11-10 and an ERA of 3.85, but the memories, the indelible scar of the yips, loomed larger than any stat. Yet his story isn't one of pure tragedy. It's a story of transformation, of facing an insurmountable obstacle and forging a new identity. He proved that even when the dream is shattered, the pursuit of a career, of a life in the game you love, can continue in unexpected ways. Rick Ankiel's journey into the outfield wasn't just a career change, it was a psychological liberation. He was no longer tethered to the unpredictable terror of the pitching mound. He could swing freely, express his athletic talents without the paralyzing fear of his own body betraying him. His story stands as a stark reminder of the immense mental fortitude required to play professional sports at the highest level. It highlights the fragility of talent and the psychological battles that often go unseen. His name became synonymous with the yips, a cautionary tale whispered in dugouts and broadcast booths. But it's also a story of redemption, of finding a new way to contribute, to remain in the game. He showed that a career doesn't have to end just because a specific path is blocked. He took his immense talent and his will to compete and redirected it. The night Rick Ankiel forgot how to pitch wasn't just a baseball game. It was a deeply human drama played out under the bright lights. It was a vivid, terrifying illustration of how mental challenges can derail even the most gifted athletes. His inability to pitch that night etched itself into baseball lore, a bizarre and unforgettable chapter. But his subsequent journey, his refusal to let that single catastrophic inning define him, is the ultimate testament to his spirit. And in that transformation, in his new life as a hitter, Rick Ankiel ultimately found his enduring baseball legacy.